So for number 7 on page 2 of the review packet, Nate keeps his change in a jar. The inside of the jar has a diameter of 3 inches and a height of 6 inches with the volume of the jar. What shape is this? A cylinder. Not sure if you guys have the formula for volume of a cylinder memorized. They do give you this one, but know that capital V means area of the base. So not just base and height, it's area of the base, and the shape of the base is a circle. You guys know the formula for area of a circle? That's something they would expect you to know if you want to provide that. Good. So pi radius squared is the area of a circle. And then for a cylinder, we also times it by the height. So that's how you can kind of memorize it. This is area of a circle, this part. But then since we're talking about a cylinder, also times the height. So that's what this meant. Area of the base, which happens to be a circle, times the height. Now, sometimes they specify to use 3.14 for pi, and if they do, like make sure you do, because that will affect the rounding. Or like 22/7, like they will always tell you what they want you to use for pi. But if they don't, then you're just going to use the pi button that's on your calculator. So this one, I'll use the pi button because it didn't say to substitute pi for anything else. And you need to be practicing with the calculator you plan to use on the real thing. So if you don't have like a real calculator, then it has to be this one. I know it's tedious and annoying, but like there's some little nuances. You just have to know, like with whatever calculator you want it to do this function, you have to figure out how it works on that calculator. But for this one, this is the pi button. Okay, that's it. So unless they say use 3.14 instead of pi, you're going to use the button. So for this one, it's going to be pi times the radius. That's what R stands for. What's my radius of the base? Or what does radius mean? Half the diameter. So diameter is all the way across the middle of the circle. Radius would be from the middle of the circle to the edge. So they'll try to trick you by giving you the diameter. You have to remember that radius is always half of the diameter. So what's half of 3? Good, and then we'll square that because it's radius squared. And then times the height, which from my diagram is 6. So these are the buttons I'm going to press in that calculator that is embedded in my test, because that's what I have to use if I don't bring my own or run something with those stuff. So let's see, pi parentheses 1.5 close parentheses squared times 6. That's not right. So this is like one of those things that we learned earlier from using this, like this calculator is kind of like finicky. It kind of wants you to do, if you have exponents, to do that first. So I'm going to clear this. So I'm going to do the 1.5 squared now, which is that. Now times it by pi, and then times it again by 6. I mean, that is the accurate answer. So that's why, again, you have to practice with whatever calculator you can use. want our units to be in whatever units cubed. So that one, I remember I maybe told some people just to skip it because I couldn't remember if there was a typo or not, and there's not. It wants you to rewrite it using exponent. It's just the word simplify kind of threw me off, because technically this is simplified form already. But it wants you to rewrite it using exponent. So the way to do that would be to break it down, each number that it's asking about, into its prime factors. So I'm gonna make a factor. What are two numbers that multiply to 43? Or is 43 already prime? Okay, then maybe let's get that one. Let's look at 48. What are two numbers that multiply to 48? Twenty-four and 24 times what is 48? Okay. So break it down into its prime numbers. Prime means it can't be broken down any further except for one in itself. So 2 is prime, 24 is not. What are some numbers that multiply to 24? 12 and 2. 2 is prime, 12 is not. What are some numbers that multiply to 12? And you could have said other things, but regardless, like once you break it down into its prime factors, you'll get the same like prime numbers. But 6 is not prime. What does 6 break into? And okay. So I'm gonna circle all my prime numbers. Just so that you know what we're talking about. We only care about the numbers that can't be broken down any further except for one in itself. And the reason why this is helping me answer this or rewrite it using exponents is because if I have a duplicate, then I can rewrite it as, since I have 4 2s, I can write it as 2 to the power of 4. And then you still need to include the 3, so it'll be times 3. Damage Genevieve. Who is that? She's like, if you walk in, like, I don't know if you were like purple patch or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So 2 to the power of 4 and then times 3. I should be able to put this in my calculator and it still give me that number, but now it just hasn't. Does that make sense? Okay. So then when I go back to the 43, are there numbers that multiply to get 43 other than like decimals? So 43 is already prime. So the only way to rewrite it using exponents would have to be 43 to the first power, because I need to have an exponent, that's what it said. And then also that one's already prime, like it doesn't have any prime factors that have to be there. So does that make sense? I'll leave these two then. I know we probably already wrote down the answer, but you could try to make the factor thing and see why that's the answer for those. Any other questions? And I have time for one. Three, number 1. Okay, so Dalton has a number cube with bases numbered 1 through 6, a spinner with 10 intersections, labeled 1 through 10. We'll roll the number cube and spin the spinner. What's the probability that both results will be 5? So on a cube, like a normal cube, it says bases numbered 1 through 6, and I don't know if you know this, but cubes have 6 sides. So how often does a 5 appear on a cube? Like on a dice? 1 out of 6 times. So you're gonna represent that with a fraction. 1 out of 6 is how often a 5 shows up on a cube. So you have a 1 out of 6 chance of getting a 5 when you roll it. But then at the same time, they want to know what's the probability that with a spinner with 10 equal sections labeled 1 through 10, what's the probability that out of those 10 spots that a 5 will appear? So spin a spinner. How often would a 5 appear? Labeled 1 through 10. So 1 out of 10 chances that you roll or spin a 5. Okay. Now, the thing is, they're putting these probabilities together. They're not asking about them individually. They're saying what's the probability that both results would be 5. So we know what they are individually. In order to get the combined probability, you have to multiply them. So then when you multiply fractions, you can use a calculator if you want. If you do, I would recommend put your fraction in parentheses. But otherwise, if you do it like this, multiply straight across, 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 10 is 60. And if it wants a percentage, you just divide the numerator by denominator and times by 100%. So it could be asked as a fraction, it's a 1 out of 60 chance. Or if you did make it a percentage, it is 1.67%, approximately. You guys have like 1 minute at the station you're currently at, and then you'll rotate, wrap up the one, and then I'll let you know when you rotate. So diamonds, remember, it needs to be uploaded to Schoology based on completion and work shown is what I'm looking for. It's not this. So number 4 on the first page was the one asked about. And it says, while riding a Ferris wheel at an amusement park, Ashley and Mia decide that they would like to know how far they have to travel in one rotation around. They can use the circumference to figure this out. Normally, they wouldn't tell you that. Normally, you have to like use your photo making skills. A Ferris wheel, like when you're on it, like you go like this, in a circle. And they want to know how far they traveled in one rotation. So that's not like within the circle, it's not your area, it's your circumference, which is like perimeter of a circle. They expect you to know formulas like circumference. So what's the formula for circumference? Up until you take the ACT Aspire, because obviously you can't Google when you're in the middle of the state test, but Google is a great tool. Formula for circumference is two pi r. So write that down. Maybe instead of making a flashcard of it, they would not provide you that information. The way that I remember it is because I know that area of a circle is pi r squared, because like area is unit squared usually. So an area is this for a circle. And usually any sort of like circle things have pi in it. So that's why for circumference, it has pi times the radius. And just like perimeter is not unit squared, and just times it by 2 in this one. Is how I remember it. So just have it memorized. They specified that they want you to use 3.14 for pi. So make sure that if they say that, do that. I know you have a pi button on your calculator, but it'll mess up the rounding if you don't follow directions. They say use this for pi, then use it for pi. Otherwise, use the pi button on your calculator. And then radius means what? They give you how far do the girls travel if the diameter is 25. There's no diameter in this equation. What's the difference between radius and diameter? Radius is always half the diameter. So on a circle, radius is from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Where diameter would be all the way across. So that's how they'll try to trick you. They'll give you diameter, but what you need to remember is that you put the radius, which is always half the diameter. So it's half of 25. Half of 25. 12.5. So then that's my 2 pi r. 2 times 3.14 times the radius. And now I'm gonna use my calculator. Whatever calculator you plan to use on your test is what you should be practicing with. Because if you're still being stubborn and not like renting one from the bookstore like I recommended, then it has to be this one that you're practicing with. And I know it's tedious to get to, but like you need to start practicing. The numbers can be like sometimes. Because I'm doing this one, it's 2 times 3.14. I'm putting it in. See that it's not showing me when I put the parentheses, but like that, and then it equals. I'm talking answer. Hold on. Maybe I'll do this one. 2 times 3.14 times 12.25. Okay, now it's giving me the answer. So I guess even when you do use parentheses, it still wants you to put multiplication. If you do. So that's my circumference of that circle. That's how far they're traveling in one location. And the units they're using is meters. If this was a constructed response question, make sure you use the units that they use. Or explain like how you got your answer. But there's that. Good on that one? Okay, questions on any others? That you got wrong or any of that. Looking at this sequence of numbers, it says what's the 9th term in the sequence? So figure out the pattern. How can I go from -90 to -83? And then again from -83 to -76, what should I do? Subtract 7, close. Add 7, because since these are negative, as it gets closer to 0, the numbers are getting bigger. So each time you're adding 7, and it is consistent throughout. So you have a few options. You could, I don't know, draw a few more blanks. So this would be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Do all the way until you get there. That's just beautiful. But sometimes on the test, they won't ask you something that is that easy. They'll ask you, what is 100th term in the sequence? And you wouldn't want to like do that. So if it's adding the same amount each time, what type of function is that? Adding the same amount each time. Or think of all the functions we talked about in 9th grade. There's linear, exponential, quadratic. So linear is if it's adding the same amount. Exponential is if it's multiplying the same amount each time. So since it's adding 7 each time, that's going to be linear. You could set up an equation, linear function, or y equals mx plus b, where m and b are what's usually replaced with numbers. M stands for what? Slope, and a slope / rate of change. So what is it changing by each time? So my slope's gonna be 7. B, your y-intercept, is what you're starting with, but let me see how it wants it. What's the correct answer to this? So I'm gonna go with that this is my first term in the sequence. Technically, it starts where the x is 0, so like the first input. Let me see if it's gonna be minus 90. If I plug in 9, is that gonna be the answer? So 7 times 9 is 63. Minus 90 is negative 27. So that's where, if you're doing it this way, this is my first term in the sequence. To get like my y-intercept, you want technically like the 0 term in the sequence. If that makes sense. Time starts when x is 0. So if you continue it backwards, instead of adding 7, subtract 7. And that's actually my y-intercept, is negative 9. Now, when I plug in that 9 for like the 9th term in the sequence, 23 minus 97 is giving me the right answer. So you have 2 options. For this one, it might just be easier to add 7 each time. Because it's not like they're making you do 100 sequences of the same thing. But if it's like pretty excessive, then consider making any changes. Just remember that your first, like where it starts, is always when the x is 0. Okay, we have to make it to the fashion. Questions on this one? Okay. Questions on any others? So Troy's family decides to recarpet his bedroom. He must find the area of his room. Look at the floor plan below to find the total area of the room. So does area mean distance around the shape? Or does it mean like within the shape? Within, so know that. What else about that? And look at the 2 different shapes we have. Because otherwise, I guess you could consider it a trapezoid, but I'd rather not. I have a rectangle and a triangle. Those formulas are easier to remember. So how can I find the area of a rectangle? Good, and it has those dimensions available. So I would first find the area of the rectangle. 10 times 14, what do I get? 140 is the area of just the rectangle. You need to add it to the area of this triangle. Do you guys remember the area of a triangle? So that's something that we expect you to know. Area of the triangle. Look at the information they give you, exactly ring a bell. Harvey? Okay, yes, that is right. So the area of a triangle formula, let me put it over here because I don't have a lot of room. Is 1/2 base times height. So in this one, my base is 6, my height is 10, and I'm gonna times it by 1/2. You could also write it as base times height divided by 2. That's the same thing as multiplying by 1. Dividing by 2. But yeah, the way that I remember that formula is because, look, a triangle is half of a rectangle. If I put two triangles together, I get a rectangle. So that's how I remember it. Rectangles are base times height or base times width. Triangles are half of that. Until you take the ACT Aspire, those are very good for the formula. Yeah, great. Okay, so anyway, these are the numbers for my area of the triangle with 6 times 10. And what's half of 60? So my area of the triangle is 30. To find the total area, I'm gonna add them. It's gonna be 140 plus 30 equals 170, and you wanna have proper units. Whenever you find area, that's gonna be in units squared, so feet squared. So if this was like a constructive response, make sure you have units. Explain how you got it. Questions on the break? Questions on any other? Number 4, you said? Okay. So while riding the Ferris wheel at an amusement park, Ashley and Leah decided that they would like to know how far they travel in one location around. They know they can use the circumference to figure this out. How far do the girls travel if the diameter is 25 meters? So normally they wouldn't tell you use the circumference. They would make you use your critical thinking skills. So like think about when you're on the Ferris wheel, travel in a circle. You're not like talking about within the circle, just like the perimeter around the circle. Circumference is a fancy word for perimeter of a circle. You guys know the formula for circumference? Yeah, that works too. Or what's the other one? 2 pi r. Both of these work because you guys know the difference between diameter and radius. Okay, perfect. So diameter is all the way across the center, but then that's the center. That's diameter. Radius is from the middle to the edge. The reason why both of these work is because we have ×2 in this one, 2 times the radius is equal to diameter. So yeah, anyway, I usually remember this one more so though, because I compare it to like area of a circle, which I know is pi r squared. They usually use pi with circles. I know area should be like unit squared, so I know like circumference is not squared because the two distant. All right, but anyway, plug in the numbers. They want you to use 3.14 for pi. If they say that, it's important you do that. Don't press the pi button because then the rounding will be off. So 2 times 3.14, and what's my radius if the diameter is 25? 12.5 is my radius. Just because I try to remember as fewer things as possible, I usually go through this motion, but you could remember circumference and diameter and radius for times 5. And then the exact answer. But now this is what will give me the answer, so you can get my calculator. I know it's annoying, but you have to calculate whatever you want. So, and this one kind of, you know, they want you to press the multiplication button, it doesn't want you to go to. times 3.14 times 12.5 equals, and that's like 78. Okay. Questions on this one? 78.5 meters and not squared because we're just talking about perimeter, not area. You remember to upload it to Schoology, that's how you get your point, and I do it based off of work shown and. That's the answer. Did I see John today? No Braun, I don't remember seeing Braun. Did I see Kaylee M? Kaylee M, are you in here? Have a good day. You too. Did I see Danica? Everyone else, I remember.